got like a dozen babies in her belly. And
The baby's in the ultrasound.
Hello.
Oh, well, it's really quite funny. I was in bed sleeping at 2 o'clock this morning. My wife comes in and says, oh, the shop's been, someone ran into the shop. And I said, oh, what?
Of course. No?
I can understand better this time.
Because you had the
last time.
experience before. Okay. Very strong. There is stronger, I'd say, but definitely, definitely on the strong side for sure. He was just saying like, I forgot the beginning what he was saying, but like he woke up, his wife like came in and like woke up and someone was at the store, like someone was at the front of the store, and he was just saying that he's only got his underwear on, and he ran out to check or something like that. Yeah. So it's kind of sure. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's not hard to understand for Australians now.
It's level 1.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure
Easy.
there's.
Hey boys, the surf's up. It's fucking going off, bro. The girls were staring at me while I surfed.
Why are you in there with your shirt on, dude?
What? I don't like to take off my shirt, bro. I feel uncomfortable. Is that a problem?
Oh, I understood everything.
Nice.
So
Great.
yeah, he was going surfing, and then he's like, all the girls were like looking at me or something, right? And then he was, they're like, why'd you surf with your shirt on?
Hey boys, the surf's up.
A very thick accent.
Yeah. Although this is a specific like type of Australian accent, because it's like people specifically from like from Greece or from like Italy or from like an ethnic sort of background that's like not just like white Australians like tend to have this accent. It's like we say like wog, like woggy accent, because his YouTube is super wog, so he's making fun of that like really accentuating that accent. So not every Aussie sounds like that, but if you have that like background, you tend to sort of have that. It's kind of like you know the New York like Italian like that like hey I'm walking here like that kind of thing.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's like the Australian equivalent of kind of that.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like a mix of 2 different accents.
Pretty much, yeah.
It does sound different than a lot of the Australian accents that I've heard. It was going kind of like up and down a lot, but I wasn't getting like no, like that type of. I really don't want to offend you, but like that type of like rounded out vowel sound, I wasn't getting that as much.
True.
So that's why it sounded a little different.
I'm Italian, and so like I've been around that accent with like family friends and everyone. So like and friends at my school, like majority were like Greek or Italians as well. So like they all kind of use this sounding accent. So not this extreme, a milder version, but still it's what I'm used to.
It's like a skit, right? Are they like exaggerating it a little bit?
Totally.
Right,
but there's a lot of people like that.
But
So
sure,
it's like,
of course.
Yeah.
Well, no, I actually grew up in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And then I came to Sydney to go to the National Institute here and then got catapulted out, and I thought, well, I'll give it 5 years and see what happens.
All accents are very different. That was like almost very like posh almost sounding.
Totally,
right?
totally, yeah.
Yeah. She like grew up in Melbourne, and my short-term memory isn't the best, but she was like easy. Yeah, she was easy to understand. I haven't heard this accent a lot actually.
It's more, I'd say, like, it's definitely more poshy. Like, I'd say people that are a little more, like, it's kind of in, you know, England, how there's that very poshy, like, British kind of accent. Right. And then there's, like, the different variations. So I'd say, like, for Australia, this would be our, like, most kind of posh sounding. So it's almost borderline, like, British. Like, there's a lot more British to it.
It sounds almost like the British accent in a way.
Yeah.
Like a mix of 2 accents.
So that's the thing, it's like, because I know some people with like RP, like British RP and like transatlantic was something they like kind of trained to speak like, to sound more like upper class, but like, I don't think anyone necessarily goes out of their way to like try and sound like that. I think it's just more your circumstances, right? Like if you're sort of, I guess, more well off, or if you've had like a lot of high education and all that, like it just cultivates that sort of sound.
Yeah.
So so I don't think people, I don't know, like put it on, so to speak, but yeah, it's very much like news broadcaster Australian. Like you hear everyone in the news, presenters, like announcers all use this kind of sound mostly.
Okay.
So I guess maybe they put it on to a degree to sound
probably,
more.
Probably, because even in the States, like there's that type of voice.
Right, the presenter kind of.
Right, so I'm sure also in Australia.
Yeah.
Pregnant snake, she's got like a dozen babies in her belly, and so what we have to do is we have to ultrasound her, check out the babies, exactly the same way as you can perform an ultrasound on a pregnant woman, you know,
Right.
check out the little bits and pieces
So you
that are
have-
going in there.
Yeah. This is the accent that I'm familiar with. The baby's in the ultrasound. I really can't imitate it, but I love this accent so much.
The typical what people associate with Australian accents, right? Yeah. Of course.
Oh yeah,
He's like one of the most famous Australians, and like everyone knows him.
ever.
Yeah, for real. He's an icon.
I know.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. To me, like the accent goes kind of up and down. With babies, like, you know, it kind of goes up and down, so it's a bit more stronger in that way. Yeah, and the vowel sounds, like I said before, is like really rounded out. Yeah, I feel like that's how I can really tell if it's an Australian accent.
Right, right.
But his is quite on
His
the
is quite on the strong
stronger
side. I was gonna say it probably borders like the one that I know is like that strong one. If it's the steps, it's like the highest one, the highest step of like very Australian sounding. The person I associate broad accent with the most is like one of our ex-prime ministers, Julia Gillard. Like she has a very typical sort of broad Australian accent. So that's like a good example for that, you know, if you want to look it up. But I'd say, yeah, it's probably the most common accent that's you can hear around everywhere.
The last couple of months, it just felt like you wanted to get to the end, and all of us were like, how many more days are left? How many more days? And this last week, I was sitting there, and as they wrapped me, all of a sudden it sort of hit me like, oh, wait a second, I didn't soak this up enough. I didn't kind of make the most of it. I didn't say goodbye to everyone or whatever. And
Yeah, I'd say that's also kind of broad, right? But also like posh in a way, a little bit.
I was gonna say, if anything, Chris Hemsworth is kind of between Steve Irwin and like Kate Blanchett, kind of in that more towards like the sort of broadish sound, but like definitely not more than Steve Irwin. I was getting that confused with broad then. So then this is the one that you'd hear the most. Oh, interesting.
I think it's a little easier, yeah, to understand compared to the thicker accents. It's so funny, like hearing him with that accent because watching him, he's always using the American accent.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't even know he was
He's Australian?
Like for,
Wow.
I mean, for a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
I learned pretty quickly. But I remember watching the movie, and then I learned after, I think, the first movie I watched with him, and I was like, wait, what?
Really?
Yeah.
This is American accent like convincing?
It's so good.
Really?
Yeah, it's so good.
I can hear him like trying to put it on. I guess because I'm so like used to the Aussie, so I'm always like, it kind of sounds a little like, oh, it keeps slipping a little into Aussie, but I guess if you can't tell, that's really good.
I can't really tell. Yeah, I think also because like sometimes a very tiny slight Australian accent, you know, it may sound like, you know, with the R's you use A. Like in Northeast we also do that. So if it may get like a little
it can kind of it can slide and
yeah.
Oh, interesting. I think for a lot of Australians, yeah, because like our tongue, we haven't trained it in the same way because we don't pronounce R's like at the end of words the way Americans do. So like that's what Australians struggle with the most is maybe that R sound, like really using that tongue to like accentuate that sound, which is why I think when I hear Aussie actors do American accents, you can kind of hear, it's always the R sound that will slip at times because it's hard to keep it sounding really strong, I'd say. Because we haven't trained that as much in our tongue. This is interesting.
It was fun because I haven't heard variations of the accent.
Yeah.
So it was interesting hearing the different accents and kind of like how it became to be. So it was pretty interesting. You know?
Yeah. And like I learned a lot about the differences too, because like I can hear the differences, but we don't really talk about like the names for them or like sort of, you know, which ones are the most common and stuff. You just speak the way you speak, so it's cool to know. Yeah.
So today we listened to some Australian accents.
If you like the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.